Christina Martin is an award-winning artist based in Nova Scotia, Canada. Her songs are a blend of rock, roots, and pop music. She has relentlessly toured Canada, the UK, and Europe, played music festivals around the world, and had her songs featured in film and TV. When I first listened to Christina, I was really blown away by her gorgeous songwriting and her powerful voice, and I thoroughly enjoyed interviewing her for the Global Music Match. Basically, I'm going to do a beautiful introduction for you where I tell everybody how amazing and talented and brilliant you are.
Absolutely. No,
and I'm going to reiterate again that I was so happy as soon as I started listening to your music. Like from the first song, I was just like, okay, this is beautiful. Like this is somebody that I want to connect with and whose music I love and I'm a fan. So I'm really, really happy. It was a pleasure to do like deep dives through all of your discography, and I loved it. And
that makes me happy.
What you were speaking about before leads me into what was my fourth question, but now being my first.
We can shift.
I feel like you're very open in your songwriting, and there's a directness to it that really resonates with me personally. I love, some of the artists I was telling you I love before, like I love artists that have something to say and are sharing like perspective. So for me, that's how I'm interpreting your lyrics and feeling them as like very open and very direct with the subject matter, and even to the next level where I've read in some of your bios, that you share really personal stories about losing your brother to addiction, and it's so brave to share that story and some of the other stories that are in your music, and you're writing about your real experiences, and that's obvious to me. But is that something that you come to with intention, or is that something that just happens naturally? And I guess you did explain before a bit about what you gain from that, but is that something that you had the intention for?
Well, starting out, I don't think I knew what my intentions were. It was more just kind of songwriting and developing that skill. I was in Austin, and I discovered these singer-songwriters and fell in love with what they were doing, and I felt it was a really powerful thing. And I thought, well, this is something I'm curious about, and I like journaling, but I really was, very unconscious about a lot of things. And I think being able to get clearer in my messages with the songs and more direct is something that I've definitely developed over over almost 2 decades of songwriting, and not something daily that I'm able to, that I might be working on, but pretty regularly in terms of just writing and editing my lyrics. Really started, in my first couple albums, especially my first one. It was more of like, just like purging and I had no experience really in songwriting, and just kind of going by just intuition and then, within I'd say, let's say 6 years and doing my second album, wanting to tighten things up and get to the core of the message, and kind of falling in love with a simpler message. Like we have a tendency when we talk to our friends and people we love, and I'm talking to you, and we go on and on and on, and that's a normal, fun thing. It's not, I don't think that we need to, like only get our messages across in 5 words, but then it's just what I love about the song is that, and poems and pop music especially, is that you have this ability to try to make it as compact and get to the heart of the matter, and also in that trying to become a better, I guess, communicator of whatever messages that I feel are important in the moment. I lost my train of thought.
So you're saying that you didn't have
That's great.
you didn't necessarily have that intention at the start. You were
No. Yeah. Sorry.
purging,
Thank
but
you.
then that's
Yeah.
changed. Yeah.
That's changed. And then, I mean, also, and you kind of creating music. I wanted to figure out what it was inside me that was bothering me so much, and that I knew that I could do that with songs, and I knew that singing allowed me, and the act of becoming a professional singer, um, I feel like it kind of saved me. I had to stay healthy. I had to watch what I was drinking and, my substance intake. Um, I had to get enough rest. I had to do a lot of things. I had to work different jobs and have the energy, to do this thing that was making me healthier, because I was, finding out
Yeah.
about myself and the world and relationships. And I had this really cool thing that felt like my own private universe.
Mm.
It was a way of healing, I suppose. And then as it became kind of more serious, like, I started thinking about the business behind music and wanting to do it professionally and make a living at it many years later. The questions would come up like in interviews, like, why do you do this? What's your inspiration? So I think those made me think more about my intentions, and also just evolving as a
Mm.
human, wanting to be a better person. That question comes up quite a bit, like, what is your intention? And I've worked really hard over the years to think about that and write it down and check in. Like, I'm somebody who's very goal orientated. I'm definitely a planner, even though now I realize that your plans can go to shit. You need to be open and adapt. I still like to have guidelines and a plan, and and a general direction, and then try to. That, to me, that's how I've made things happen for myself, is like always planning and making lists and
Yeah.
striving and um yeah. So, but no, it's yeah, that evolved, that ability to kind of like, oh, what is my intention? At first I thought, this, who cares, like, what my, just
It's
go with
just that raw
go with the
expression,
flow.
or just that raw
Yeah,
expression, even like just cool.
yeah,
You hear the
yeah.
sirens. It's so LA. And it's just like
Uh-oh. Yes.
constantly sirens.
Oh, you live in a great neighborhood?
I do. Well, it's just the whole city. I mean, even it's just fire trucks. It's just crazy. Like, it's just always something going on. And helicopters
Oh, well,
going around. So
you live in
there's
a
a
busy city, right? You're in
yeah,
Los Angeles.
exactly.
So you won't hear sirens here in Port Howe, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
It very, very seldom. I live on a dirt road. You live in a lot. It's probably a lot of pavement, I'm assuming.
Yeah, concrete jungle.
Mm.
Yeah.
Or
So
do you live on that one? Do you live on the one dirt road in LA? That would be so coincidental.
no, I guess there's a few if you go out to the valley, but no, we're really close to downtown. But so you
Cool.
live on a farmhouse.
Yeah, we live on a it's an old farm, an old dairy farm. The barn, we've been actually, it was falling apart, so we've been selling off the barn boards, and it's been 7.5 acres, and lots of land to plant our Patreon trees. Every patron gets a tree named after them,
Really,
and no
that
matter,
is amazing. That is so great.
yeah, even if you sign up and then stop after a month, you got a tree planted with your, that's incentive enough, right? And I'm
That's
supposed to
awesome.
water them and take care of them, and I'm realizing that's a big task to monitor. You think, like, stick a tree in the ground and then you're done? No. Like, it's more complicated than that, depending on the soil and the amount of sunlight, and it's the deer and the animals have ravaged them. Anyway, it's a whole thing here, but yeah, there you
Okay,
go.
so
No,
I was
it's
gonna
okay.
say, how long have you been living there?
We moved here in 2011, my husband Dale and I, and we have, like you, we have a home studio in our house. Got a tracking room in Dale's console room, and so we really, I mean, it's such it really is a freedom when we get down to recording new songs, to have our own space and time to do that. I don't like work well under pressure and watching the clock. And when people record here, Dale works on other albums. I kind of manage the schedule, and I really try to get all of the business talk out front so that when people come, they're not looking at the clock, and there's
Yeah.
it's just nice to have that freedom. And I like people to work not under pressure, just to be relaxed and,
Yeah. And it's cool that so you have that experience when you're working and booking the times for the artists at the studio. You have that experience as an artist yourself, so you can bring that
yeah.
to making the experience, just all round better. And I think so. You have a record label, Come Undone.
Yeah, Come Undone Records. I mean,
Come
I
Undone
don't.
Records.
Maybe at one point I thought maybe I would have the energy to release other records, and it kind of just I don't. And I mean, what I try to do now after many years of having, my own company, label. Essentially, I'm the project manager, executive producer of everything that I do, as you and a lot of DIY artists are well. And I incorporated my business, for tax benefits, and so that's been, I think, really good experience overall. And but I used to be, yeah, I used to think that maybe I could help other artists release their records, and I can't. I have no time. I find like
Oh yeah,
the solo.
I was like, of course you could, but yeah, it's
No, yeah, no. But now, I mean, I'm much more open now to. I wasn't in the beginning. I was very kind of guarded and wasn't quite sure how to be supportive, in even in my own music community, because I was so terrified that, of holding on to like my contacts and everything. And nothing against anybody who chooses to do that. But now, if anybody comes to me for help, I will help them share pretty much any and all of my contacts. I mean, I also pass on, to other organizations that I work with that help me when I release an album, that have been positive experience. I'll say, well, listen, I can't help you with that, but you can talk to this person. And then I try to encourage, like, paying those companies to help them so that it's supporting the music industry.
Yeah.
And, but I'm all for like collaborating in terms of and brainstorming, and I love project managing. So happy to look over, within reason, of course. If I don't have time, I'm very, like I've said to people who emailed me, some artists, like I'd be on a tour and they'll be looking for some help, maybe starting out. And I remember people helping me out when I started, when I booked my first tour. I remember somebody sitting down with me and giving me all their Canadian contacts, and other people,
Mm.
didn't do that. And that was fine. It didn't hold a grudge or anything, but it made a difference to me that somebody did share a contact, and they
Yes.
weren't losing anything by it. It wasn't like those venues were, like had to book me. I mean, they booked me if they felt it was going to be a good, experience. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I've
Yeah.
just
There's
learned
only
like
so much. There's only so much you can. So far, you can get with having that
do.
contact. You have to be able to follow up in the right way and have something they're interested in. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but being a businesswoman has been, and being okay with like saying that, and it's been a real ride, I tell you. And I love it. I love working for myself and collaborating with other, people in the music industry and other artists. And I think I've shared this with you, like I have shared this with you before, that I'm not so much collaborating in the writing sense with a lot of other artists, but as soon as the song is written, not that I have never collaborated, I have had some co-writes. But as soon as the song's written, it's all still collaborations in the studio, in terms of launching with your marketing team. And then I hire people to help with a lot of that when I can afford it. But I've also learned there are times when I don't have the budgets, and I do the best I can. It's rarely perfect and made lots of mistakes, but I'm just so, it's, I think, I feel like a lot of the times I'm fighting to keep this lifestyle going, the lifestyle that we have here living in the countryside, which is more affordable than living in the city. I get to work with my best friend, Dale, my husband, and I just want to keep this going. And it's, as you know, when things are going well, um, Man, it just feels really good. It feels great when people respond to your music, your messages. It's such a, uh, I feel so fortunate to be able to travel and see parts of the world that growing up, I never thought I would, be able to even go across my own country,
Yeah.
let alone European countries. Um, and it's been incredible. I'm extremely addicted to this lifestyle.
Yeah. It's the best.
Yeah.
I read that you went to Germany early on in your career, and it's absolutely been quite a big part of your career that you go back and tour there regularly, and that
Mm,
you had an artist residency there.
yes.
What was it that brought you to Germany? Like, how did the countries have
Oh
such a
man.
big part of your career?
Well, early on, a lot of the things when I after my father died when I was 19, and it was a pivotal moment, as losing somebody in your family who you love is always pivotal, but it was also kind of a release for me. I felt like when he was alive, I was on a certain path, and there were expectations, even if they were unspoken. And then when he died, all of that went away, and I really didn't have a sense for what my purpose was, and I was really following these instincts to go away, to get out of here, out of Atlantic, Canada, and travel, and that took me to Austin, and that was I didn't know I was going to the live music capital of the world. And then after that first summer in Austin, I went again. It wasn't Germany was never on my radar, but I got another job as a nanny through this website that I'd gotten the Austin job at, and went to Germany. And in Germany had just come across some producers that I wasn't a singer really. I mean, I liked singing, but it came up in a conversation, this opportunity to go in and sing in this professional studio. And it was my first time recording in a
Yeah.
studio, and I wasn't singing my songs. I think I was just starting to write my songs and learn acoustic guitar. It was singing for a pop project. So it was like early on these series of just, being very open and young and single and going with the flow, and these opportunities were coming. Then they're kind of like were signs to me, like maybe I do need to be on this path, and then I went back to Austin, and by then I was starting to write original songs, and other things were happening because I was still open and searching. and
Mm.
and I've even forgot the your initial question now, but
Well,
what were
no,
you talking?
I mean, yeah, you covered it. It's
Germany, yeah.
good.
Oh, great. So I did fall in love with. I studied German while I was there, and I really learned how to speak German. Which, I mean, my French, coming from a French background, my family's French wasn't even that as good as my German was at that time. And I remember thinking I wouldn't mind living here. I loved the European culture and the energy there. And so when I came back to Austin, I kept up with the language. Eventually, went back to East Atlantic, Canada, to finish my university degree, and I studied German again. And I just had this feeling like I want to go back there someday. I didn't know if it would be with music. And then once
Yeah.
I made the decision to do music full time around 2007, I was trying to I was learning about touring and booking shows and whatnot, and trying to get an agent, and it was so hard. And then finally got my foot in the door, and we had 12 shows booked in Germany, and went over with just two acoustic guitars. Now we have like the electric acoustic show, but played a lot of house concerts. And then we met a lot of these really important connections in that first tour, which is why I really believe, like, if you feel like you have nothing, on the go in a market, if you can just get there and play your music for people, book a couple shows, like there's nothing like being there on the ground, and it was from that first tour that we developed some key relationships that brought us, but that gave us an invitation to do an artist residency in Dachau. And that really just led to kind of a long-term friendship with that community. And to this day, we still go back to Dachau and are in talks. We've stayed there even as non-artist residents. We've stayed in that town as a home base when we tour, and we'll stay there for 3 months at a time in that market and tour. And that's how we built our European teammates there,
Yeah.
and met other musicians. And oh, that's a long answer to your
Well, good. It's good. Um,
yeah.
so I read in one of your bios, which a
Mm-hmm.
quote that I loved, and it describes your music, and I can't remember which album it was talking about exactly, but it said a place where the ghosts of her musical heroes mingle with the architecture of modern music. I just really
Yeah,
I like that imagery a lot, and it made me wonder, like, who are those influences
yeah, sure.
that you're channeling?
That's a Jason Schneider quote. That he was working with me on the "It'll Be All Right" campaign um, as my publicist. A wonderful music writer in Canada, great guy, and uh, yeah. So especially for that record, and it was a conscious decision to not be afraid to let those earlier influences in my life. Before when I moved to Austin, I discovered Americana music, alt country, and singer songwriters. Really, I didn't really even know that kind of term, singer songwriter, and so there was that period where I was learning how to write and perform, and I was going to hear a lot of just musicians singing their own original songs with an acoustic guitar, which was captivating. But growing up, I was obsessed with these music videos and the music behind and stories behind them. So I was into the Eurythmics, Tina Turner, Tori Amos, David Bowie, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Fleetwood Mac. I mean, popular music, Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah, I can
And
hear some
yeah.
Cindy in your voice. I feel.
Oh, that's great. That sometimes I get Dolly Parton, and I love Dolly Parton, but I would never have picked that out for myself. The Pretenders, Chrissy Hine. She's another very strong female influence. Annie Lennox for sure, as the Eurythmics. Um, and for that record, I believe probably Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and Bruce Springsteen-esque kind of vibe. At that point, I was really dreaming of how can I really make an album that that will involve a band, full band, and that we can also. Before that one, in making albums, it wasn't so much about making sure the live show matched the album. It was just like, what can we get? What can we do? What sounds, I don't know, what can we do within reason and resources? And I just had no idea. I was learning about, production and arrangements and relying really 100% on the producers I was working with, the engineers. And, but It'll Be All Right was, that album, 2015, was the album where I asked more questions. I pushed more for a sound I felt resonated with me, sonically. And I was thinking more about the live show. I really wanted to be performing more with the band and to get better also at that, at being a band leader and communicating what I wanted. And I wanted to do a bigger show, and I still do, but that was a turning point for me. And yeah, not being afraid to let my influences come through
Yeah,
in the music.
that's cool. And how do you? I mean, I guess because touring with a full band is not always feasible for independent artists. In fact, maybe
Yes.
rarely feasible. So how do you go with translating your records to being either solo or just you and Dale?
Well, one thing I've learned is that if the songs are if the songs the messages are strong enough, without the full band, that fans are really appreciative of both. And sometimes even they'll say, I love, the stripped down version because you can really hear the messages clearer
Yeah.
sometimes. And so this comes down to personal preference too. Sometimes, if you're in an intimate setting, people like a more intimate vibe on stage. I tour predominantly with my husband and it's a duo formation, either electric acoustic. I play electric and acoustic rhythm guitar, and my husband plays lead electric, and lap steel, pedal steel occasionally.
Oh, beautiful.
And Yeah, he's wonderful. Very, very fortunate to have him with me. Not just, I mean, he's a great touring partner as well. He's so calm. I wrote a song on my album Impossible to Hold called Keep Me Calm. And that was just all about him, and I guess expressing my gratitude for, this. It's not always an easy road that we travel, and touring can be exhausting, and there's just wonderful things about it, but it's exhausting. And he's seen all the best and the worst to me on the road, and my breakdowns and sometimes, and he always, steps up and is there he's always been there for me when I needed a boost. And yeah, so I forgot your question again. We've Can you tell we've been Zooming a lot lately?
Yeah, we've been Zooming for. I feel like I forgot my question too somehow.
It's great, yeah.
Because it wasn't on my list. It was just about translating your.
Oh, right, yeah. So as long as thank you for bringing me back there. As long as it's really just about making a connection. Sometimes I find it easier to make a connection because we tour so much as a duo, and it's just become more natural to me to connect in that intimate setting. And when I don't play with the band that often, so it's a little more nerve-wracking. There's more responsibility and more distractions, and I love it though. I mean, I just wish I could do more of it to get into the flow of it. But I don't know, people seem to like both. But it's all about the song and the message, I think. That's the most important thing for me. But of course I dream of like bigger shows, and then the art of like the show production. That's one thing I want to develop more moving forward. That's what I'm trying to do with each bigger release. But yeah, you got to pay the bills. So like the duo, there's a lot of joy in touring as a duo with my best friend, and I do enjoy it, and it's easier on the ears and the even the body. Like it's because I need a lot of alone time as well, and so we like the rhythm of touring, just the two of us, and we usually do our own shows because it's affordable and exhausting. So
I can hear that in your songs. I feel like it's really the message is clear and the meaning is clear, and the vocals, like, it stands out so much. But then at the same time, there's this whole production behind it that lifts it and elevates it. So I can see everything working both ways. It's really cool.
We did start with this last album was the first time, and we might do a little more of this. I was always opposed to like using backing tracks, but we found a way to do it. Like we don't include all of the tracks, but we'll bring like the rhythm or different elements, maybe backing vocal. And so we have a couple songs that we've been doing that in a live show, and it's nice to kind of mix up the set too. So you've got your fully acoustic and then an acoustic electric. Maybe I'm just singing on one song and Dale's playing guitar, and then maybe we'll throw in a backing track for the next tune. And so, it just adds a new element. Because I don't know about you, but I get bored of myself regularly. And this constant challenge to stay relevant and interested. If you're bored, your audience
you can't put in.
Yeah, so I try to keep it fresh for us, and it's the interesting thing about live streaming is how do you not play the same show every time you live stream when everybody can see it all? Like you can. One thing I love about touring, and why actually in the past I've been opposed to people sharing the shows online. I was kind of very old fashioned in that I think if you pay for a ticket to the show, then you're the one who gets to see the show. It's special for you. This is hard.
I remember I wanted to tell you this when we were doing my interview. We were talking about our husband partners. That we have this one joke. So I can't remember where it was from. It's like just a funny video of like these Instagram influencers and their relationships. It was just like a little montage that someone had made of going through these. And it was like, people just doting on each other, and like that being the theme of their social media, their YouTube channels, and like how in love they were. And and like how
Mm-hmm.
they would, whoever was the artist was getting their significant other to like film everything and do everything and edit everything, and then like then it would show the relationship devolving and people fighting and then we were talking to each other again, and then there was this. It was quite funny, and like it was a bit mean spirited, but it was very funny. And the favorite bit that we have is this: there's this one girl, and she was just like crying because she'd broken up with her boyfriend. She was like, "Who's gonna shoot my videos? Who's gonna shoot my YouTube videos?"
Oh yeah, that's like us, right?
I know. So that's what I say to Rob all the time. When it, like, just for fun, I'm just like, "Who's gonna shoot my YouTube videos? Who's gonna take photos of me? Who's gonna do my production?
Who's gonna engineer my sessions and mix and." It's true. We're very fortunate. I think we bring a lot. Both sides bring a lot to the table, and your relationship as well. But I can remember like this was like a weird time in our. We really have hit our rhythm in touring, and I really love touring with Dale. But there was
I miss it so much. I saw you doing live shows. I'm so jealous.
Well, not much to be too jealous about. Those are kind of coming to an end. Just with like talks of people kids going back to school, and just too risky.
Yeah.
Talks of second wave here, and we have right now. We don't knock on wood. We don't have any active cases, but it's very, we're being pretty strict about it, and it's been interesting. But I can remember somewhere along like maybe this third or fourth year, I'm not sure, we were touring in Europe, and I remember thinking I had different expectations of the relationship early on, and thinking like, we have nothing to say. He has nothing to say to me, is not interested. Like, why aren't we talking in the car? And now I just have such an appreciation for us not having to speak all the time. Like we talk about everything, but then, gosh, I'm so lucky to have someone that I don't have to talk to. And I'm not thinking, does he not like me because he's not coming up with questions for me? Like, I just feel like kind of so silly now looking back, like, and how much of a big deal I made out of that. And he probably just zoned out trying to get us from point A to point B and safely. And here I am thinking our relationship's doomed because we have nothing to talk about in the car.
Yeah, it's funny how that evolves. You mentioned that before, like the things that you thought might be a problem were a problem, were actually something that you can appreciate,
cherish.
We can be quiet together.
I love that we don't speak.
Yes, I love it when you don't talk to me. No, that's beautiful. Like, as we said before, like we're very lucky in sharing that situation, and it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding to, because like life on the road is so amazing, and you have so many amazing experiences, but it goes by so quickly, and to be able to have someone with you that really grounds those experiences and makes them memorable and recountable. It's just sort of
agreed.
It's a magic. It's really and to share that experience on stage, and like when you're feeding off each other, and then after the show, like, oh, how'd you think that went? Oh, you stuffed that up, you idiot!
There's the magic moments. I can think of one in northern Germany, Fehmarn, an island just north of Germany, and we were performing at this. We still smile about this. Performing at a cafe, and second half of the show, I looked down the front row, and there's a woman there with her dog in her lap, and it's like, oh, you brought your dog to the show. What's your dog's name? And she said, my dog's name is Pussy. And I just was like, your dog's name is Pussy. And of course it was.
Mushy.
Everybody was like, that's like, we thought it was hilarious. And then they thought it was hilarious that we thought it was hilarious. And then it turns out that Pussy, I don't even remember the name of the owner. How bad is that? I remember the dog's name, but Pussy and Pussy's owner, it turns out they lived at another area south of Germany, and they come out to our shows, not Pussy, but the owner. And we've been in touch over these years, but just those like comical, funny moments too. Sometimes the most spontaneous, like, I usually have a fairly route, like I plan out my set list and what I'd like to say, the key points, but then like learning that, okay, you also got to relax and leave room for spontaneity and look at who's in the room, like read your audience and be, yeah, open to those magic moments. But also don't be upset if they don't happen. It's like nothing you can force, but you're more likely
Yeah.
to have them if you are relaxed, trying, like, I mean, I can't always force being authentic either. Like nerves kick in.
Yeah.
It's not always
Do
controllable,
you
but
do you have like techniques that you use to deal with that, like on stage, if that happens,
uh,
when that happens?
yeah, well, I used to do like there's like little rituals that I would have and probably still do, or they change all the time, that if I do this, I'm gonna have a good show. For a while it was warming up. But then I discovered that actually, if you're doing 2-hour performance, you doing a warm up can add strain to, or if you sometimes rest is like the biggest thing. So, and then watching some of the things that I try to avoid eating, like spicy foods when I'm on tour, that can just cause inflammation. So I just, little things like that. But in terms of I read a really great book that I shared with our team, Global Music Match team, and I forget the name of it now, but Jennifer Hamady, and it's all about the psychology behind singing. And because I have experienced blocks, um, and thought they were physical issues, maybe, or strain brought on by strain, but that finding out that for me they were psychological. And I don't know, it was just an incredible journey in just
Huh.
reading that book, and even before doing the exercises, and it helped me relax, open up, not overthink things. And so I feel like I'm just turning a page now to a much more
That's
liberating
awesome.
experience with performing, and and in my last two full length albums, three actually, and learning. We released one with some cover songs called "Wonderful Lie," and just like I feel like I'm really learning how to sing now and learning about my range, because I just didn't have the awareness about any of that. Starting out, um, I didn't know how to write for my voice,
Mm.
or to, I just often would be like, well, I can't go there with my voice. I don't know. It's just, let's keep it within this little area here. And that's safe, and really just exploring and opening up. So yeah. But breathing, right? Like if I rest and take care of my health and don't, overuse my voice throughout the day, usually I feel very comfortable on stage, much more comfortable now than, the first decade of like singing and songwriting. It was just all nerves
Yeah.
and, so yeah. But I also tell myself when I get really nervous about something or an opportunity, what's the worst that could happen? Like, this isn't gonna kill me.
Yeah.
And my whole life after my father died, that was obviously, I think it was sort of this reminder of the fragility that of life, and that we could go really at any moment. I mean, it sounds so extreme, but I think about that almost
That's
every
true.
day. Like,
Yeah.
I want to do this thing that I'm afraid of. Uh, I'm ready for it. I've practiced. Like, yeah, okay. I'm just go out there and do it. Like, chill the fuck out. Just go and just give it a shot.
Yeah.
And you're gonna and be, I also tell myself mentally, like, if you make a mistake, it's it's okay. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, with the book, I just pulled it up. The Art of Singing, Discovering and Developing Your True
That
Voice.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was an interesting read, and it really helped me. And I found out about it from a musician friend of ours who I was watching perform, and he was supporting another musician friend of mine. And he was just I just was so taken by his confidence, and he was
Mm.
nailing all the notes and performing. He was playing bass and singing, and he just seemed to not put any thought into it. And had this conversation with him afterwards, and he shared that book with me. This was just, yeah, like within 2 years ago, I think. And it really, really helped me. I highly recommend it.
That's great. Yeah, I will definitely check it out. Yeah. But it's so nice to have that growth. Like, that's something I love about music and having this practice. It's like, it doesn't,
Mm.
you're always evolving, you're always
Oh my
growing.
goodness. Yeah.
And it's the best, especially if you're someone that like who likes to plan and brainstorm and improve and have that, direction. And it's just something that can grow endlessly. It's just however much you put in.
Yeah, we live in a really great time now too for ongoing professional development. I'm taking bass lessons online, Scott's Bass Lessons, a phenomenal website. And there's a website as well. Got back to beginner piano lessons just as a way to refresh my memory,
Yeah,
which is not a great memory, and get my hands on the instruments.
yeah,
And because you never know, the more time you spend with the instruments or just writing, the more open you are to channeling, ideas and melodies and so I'm kind of relearning bass from the beginning, the fundamentals of piano, and teaching myself bass through this website, Scott's
that's
Bass
great.
Lessons, and then
What's it called?
drums as well.
Scott's bass lessons.
Scott's Bass Lessons, yeah, and then pianote.com. And these are websites for beginners, intermediate, advanced. They offer, and you can always go back to it, so you can do it at your own pace. For somebody like for yourself and for me, if normally we'd be touring a lot, and you can't always be, doing your lessons. So it's nice to be able to come and go as you please, and it's affordable. Um, so that's also lovely. Yeah.
Um, I so as I've said many times, like I love going through your albums and hearing the discography, and but in particular, I think my favorite um, is the Remember Me EP. I know it's
Oh,
like
they
it's
remember me.
quite a lot, it's like it's an older one,
Heavy.
but it just
Yeah.
really. I don't know. I didn't know what it was about when I first read it because I just listened to all your music before I read your bios and
Yeah.
everything, and I don't know, something about that EP resonated with me so, and I was crying, like it was very heavy, it was very emotional. I didn't know what it
Yeah.
was about, and like, yeah, then I read later, the story behind the album. Can you tell
Yeah, sure.
everyone what that
That
was
was
about and what it was like?
absolutely. So I was approached by a world-renowned geriatrician named Kenneth Rockwood, um, who was a fan of my music at the time, to write a song for one of his great mentors, Dr. John Gray, who's known as the godfather of geriatric medicine in Canada. And both of these individuals dedicated their life to improving the quality of care for our aging population, and their work, is has a positive influence around the world. And he asked me to write a song to honor Dr. John Gray, and so that was our first encounter.
Mm.
And my job at that point, that was the first time I'd done something like that, where it wasn't, all about me and figuring stuff out in my mind.
Yeah.
It was a great exercise in putting myself, is hearing someone else's story, seeing the impact they had on other people's lives, being super moved and inspired. I mean, I love hearing stories about people who just have really touched other people in such a positive way. And sometimes these are the most humble people as well. Um, anyway, so I had done that, and then Dr. Kenneth Rockwood, through Dalhousie University Geriatric Medical Research Center, had found some money to invite me to do an artist residency. And my job was to learn as much as I could within a short period of time about Alzheimer's and dementia, to shed some light on a very heavy topic,
Mm.
to listen to people's stories in clinic and outside and in our community, and then write songs. And
Amazing.
so,
So
of course,
amazing.
I invited my partner Dale to help co-write some of these songs and produce them. And they were really meant to inspire the caregivers, care workers, and the individuals living with dementia and Alzheimer's, And it was just a fascinating learning experience for me. And I still am in touch with some of the people that I've met through that project who are, largely caregivers, um, who were just so open about, sharing their experience. And it was a really fun project. We would share written stories, submitted by people, and I would match when we released a song at a time. We would share some of these stories and pair them up with the songs, and it was
It's
it was
such
I
a
learned a lot.
wonderful project. It's really beautiful. I think you can hear the depth of it in the project for sure.
The there was a I was really struggling with figuring out how was I going to be able to um, write these songs that were not. I had to find like a commonality, that everybody could relate with, because I mean, I couldn't speak from my own perspective in terms of having dementia, living with it, and even having a very close person to me suffering from that. So I asked Dr. John Gray what he felt was the most important message that from his work that he would want to
Mm,
share with people, and he told me something along the lines of, the nature of the caring relationship, like when there's nothing more important that a human can do than showing that they care for another person, whether it's just
mm,
like showing up, being in the room, don't even have to speak. And that was really powerful, and that was when things turned for me, and I was able to take that into each kind of songwriting session, um, and put myself more in, I guess, in the shoes of other people. But yeah, it was a very good exercise as well. It said in stepping
yeah.
outside of your own experiences and your own suffering, and I saw it's a very heavy topic, and there's a lot of suffering. I also saw a lot of light in the family members, and had some very positive, lighthearted, loving experiences with
Mm,
people who I'd met who were living with dementia and Alzheimer's. So I wanted that, I wanted those kind of moments also to come out, and that's why the song "There Is Light." That's where
mm.
that came from, and yeah.
Oh, cool. You got me. But
Done,
no,
done.
it's really
Yeah.
gonna edit that little tear. But no, it was really
Were you falling asleep, Shelley? It's okay.
no. No, I'm like trying not to cry. It's so beautiful.
Mm, I want you
Um,
to cry. That's my
I
job.
know,
Oh
right?
my.
It's like yes, when someone that's
Score.
that's you.
Mhm.
um, so I noticed I loved watching your music videos, and I felt that, and through that, and just your covers and everything, that you have this really like strong aesthetic, this really distinctive aesthetic. And we were talking about this in my interview with the videos. I feel like um, it's like distinctive and runs through everything. And is that like where does that come from? What are your
Mhm.
influences? And does it feel easy or natural? Is it something you have to think about or
Yeah.
work with?
That I think that was really intentional. Um, but yet elements of it evolved because of the people that I work with, particularly in the music video production, I would say. And then parts of it, I think, coming from the artists that, inspired and influenced me. But in the beginning of my career, I think I maybe shied away from, investing time and thought into what I looked like, and, um, in terms of marketing materials, and just not having, I guess, the resources and time to really think about that, or knowing how to.
Mm,
And it became important to me once I figured out this could be fun, and I could work with
mm,
other artists on this. And I mean, some of my earlier music videos, I remember, for example, I mean, I love hair and fashion and whatnot, and I'm not an expert in any of it. A lot of, it's all been trial and error for me, from hair to makeup and wardrobe, and which I think you can tell if you watch my earliest videos. And it's fault of the directors or anything, but my video that I did with I've worked quite a bit with Jason Levangie. He's a Nova Scotian filmmaker, and his advice in working with makeup artists and fashion wardrobe people. His voice, his tips on even how they would do my hair would then shape how I would get my hair cut. And I remember always wanting to go back to being blonde, and that may have had something to do with some of the artists that I admired, growing up, like Bowie and Debbie Harry and Madonna, and Roxette. There was, if I couldn't look like Tina Turner, then I could probably pull off, the Annie Lennox, a Roxette vibe. And so just through a little bit of trial and error and working with certain directors' music videos, and stylists over the years, particularly hair and makeup, really great. And also learning to not being afraid to say, I mean, if you just show up with a makeup artist, they're creative, they want to express themselves, they're going to have fun with your face. And that doesn't always mean that's going to be how you like to look. And for example, I like a nude lip. I don't like any color. I'm not interested in exploring that. I like a nude kind of washed out look, which and I'm happy with that. And just not being afraid to push for that in my music videos and aesthetic. And I'm sure I've annoyed a lot of video editors and directors at times, because I do get quite insistent on, like, let's get the tone and the vibe right. Because when I'm watching music videos, I want to be taken away. I want it to sort of feel oftentimes like dreamlike, and like there's a softness, it makes, and an edge, but and it's an aesthetic that is, like, to me, pleasing. I try to push for that and that and fight for that sometimes, and in a very calm and professional way. But I'm sure I've at times pissed off a number of but I love all the people I work with, and I really believe in just being honest and pushing for what you want, because when it comes to music videos, I mean, in the end, it's my name, and if it doesn't look a certain way, or I'm not happy with it, I'm the one who suffers, nobody else. And you're paying for the work, and trying to get what you think is the best outcome. But
you need to have that. You have that vision, obviously. If you're going into 5 years, you need to have it in the first place. And you've got those people that are experts at what they do, and they're artists, and you're hiring them to create that vision for you. But it's still like your vision. It has to fit with, like, all the aspects of what you do. So it's cool, and I love that, hearing what you were saying, how working with those different artists has, like, influenced the way that you continue to develop and define your aesthetic. That's really cool. Like,
I mean, I still think, like, the ultimate show would be, like, if you would watch David Bowie's performances live, in his, like, later in his life. I think there's classic, like, he had this confidence in this class, and there's still the big lights, and there's a vibrancy to it all, and a confidence and a delivery. I mean, I aspire to be that kind of performer, entertainer, because those are the artists that drew me in and made me want to do that. When we went to see Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and Stevie Nicks in 2017 in Hyde Park, London. And I mean, those kinds of performances, though I'm not at that level. I mean, but it's just, you go home from that and you go, I want to feel like that. I want to feel like that again. I want to be the one on that stage to give that to people, and to have that feeling with other musicians. Like, I mean, one can keep dreaming and trying, right? I think that's important.
I think that's it. Isn't that the drive, really, or is it major?
One of the drives, for sure. Like, there's the very personal drives of like, don't want to be silenced, want to find my own voice and practice that, right? Because there are places in the world where still women don't have the voice and are silenced. And then there's the whole other side of it. Let's have fun with this. Let's entertain. Let's stretch for something beautiful and a bit of escapism as well, right? Because the day-to-day can be a little bit of a slog and isn't so glamorous for people. I think when you buy a ticket to go see a show, I mean, you want to be taken on a journey, whether it's a singer-songwriter or a big band. Yeah.
So I think we kind of covered this, but
Everything.
Yeah, we have. But so I guess, is there a song that you love the most that you've written, and just something that you're really proud of?
There are two songs that I. Well, and I couldn't have. I don't think I could have answered that like not too long ago. But when you perform, the longer you stick around, you find that there's songs in your catalog that that kind of have a little bit more lasting power, I suppose. And I still really enjoy performing two songs. It'll Be All Right still resonates with me, and Impossible to Hold. Impossible to Hold because I remember the Tom Petty concert, and then he passed away that same year. And I remember, just the idea of this physical being and his music reaching so many people, millions of people, and having such an effect. But Tom Petty himself being untouchable, and literally, I mean, now untouchable now. But having something like so special and magical as his music, and the music of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, to always go back to feel like you're in the same room with them. And I think that's where music and art and visuals are so powerful and so important. Yeah, and so that song for now, and it'll be all right. Which is something that I think we all cling to. I think it's more a song about finding faith and also following gut instincts sometimes. But having faith that things will work out when we don't really know, in the moment, and having to make split decisions and based on your guts, and can go.
I feel like it's so much. There's so much of that in the careers that we have. There's so much that, yes, you plan and can envision, but it's hard to know what it's really going to be like. And you're forging. There's no like one way. There's no path. There's no a company structure that you're copying. It's different for everyone, and you sort of have to like breathe it into life.
I mean, I never would have expected, honestly. Even when I applied for Global Music Match through my the East Coast Music Awards, or export music agency, I never would have expected it to be as incredible as it's been, and to be sitting here talking with an artist in Los Angeles that's from Australia and really connecting, and being inspired by 5 other artists during this time, and that I just never would have guessed that this would happen.
You never, until we heard of that opportunity. Like you said as well before, like you're open to those you have the plans, but then you have to be open to those opportunities. And literally, like you never imagined what this would be like, and now it's like taking a really big part of our day-to-day lives. It's awesome.
It sure is.
Yes, in fact.
Thanks a lot.
Great. I guess I love songwriting. I'm obsessed, so like a lot of my questions are songwriting based. But is there any songs that you have that maybe you would write differently? Because over your career, you've had a career for 20 years. I'm coming up on 20 years of writing and performing my original stuff, and I feel like you change as a person, you change with your approach to writing, everything develops over that time. And then, is there something like that you disagree with or feel completely differently about now? Not that it's, it's nice to have those records of the different people that you were as well.
Yeah, there's definitely, like, my first album, there are songs that I'm just like, okay, I could have edited that down quite a bit. Sort of went on, could have cut out at least 3 verses. So there are those kinds of things, grammatical errors, or just like, I've become a little bit obsessed with, like, too many words. I could have taken out 3 words in that sentence and stretched out 1 word. Just like maybe, but I don't, mainly it's my first album. And then there are, mostly we obsess about, my husband and I, in the moment, I think it's the perfect tempo to deliver a song, but then, and I'm convinced, and I'm insisting, and other people are even advising me, no, I think it should be faster, or whatnot, slower. But I'm like, no, you don't understand, because I'm the singer, and Tom Petty said that it's up to the singer to decide the tempo. And then, of course, we start playing it live, and I want it to be faster. And then I listen to the recording, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't work. And it's already out, and so we've, but sometimes it's just really hard to know.
And probably some of those things are the quirky songs that are, 3 verses too long, probably things that your fans love, and just see it.
I don't know.
I hate when someone asks for like one of those early songs. I'm like, I can't play it.
Oh yeah,
I cannot play that for you right now. I don't even remember how to play that out of time. I couldn't go back to that place of not understanding.
Well, it's funny. It's taken up a lot of our time. We launched this series called the Denim Sessions that's basically started in August and is ending the first week of October. And so I was like, okay, here's how this is going to go. 10 weeks, we're going to play the first album, parts of the first album, and then move forward week to week. And so we've been relearning some of the older songs, which has been interesting, but quite time consuming. And it is really kind of, it's weird. It can be weird. But I think a good exercise. I guess I'm a little more prepared than you, perhaps, if somebody was like, hey, play 3 songs off your first record. But I actually also need cheat sheets for those songs, like lyrics. So I have them with me during the live sessions, because it's just a lot of information that
we have a massive discography as well. Like, how many?
Well, massive is very generous of you.
It's 9 albums?
Yeah, but some of them are like acoustic versions of my first 3 albums, or like, we just put out a live album of Impossible to Hold release show, and we're doing another live album of the It'll Be Alright show. So they're like just different versions of. And no, I'm not as prolific as I'd like to think sometimes. But try to put out, try to put out regular content as much as possible. Although I have found in COVID, I thought I would have more new songs written by now, and I have been struggling with that. But it is my own fault. I've got these positive distractions, but I think they're meaningful. Like I really do. And I think I was in talking with our teammate, Saul Paul, he was like, do you just think that you need more time to create, or just like the time will come when you sit down and then you create, and then you'll go off to the studio and record. Like, so sometimes I give myself a hard time thinking I need to be writing every single day. Come on, what's wrong with me? I give myself a really hard time. But then ultimately I need to just chill out, and, I create the space when the time is right. And then I accomplish what I need to accomplish in that. Maybe it's 2 weeks, a month. And then I go to record, and then busy with all these other launching tasks, So I've never been an artist that, wrote new songs regularly. so many other things distracting me, but it's all tied to the same thing, right? The same
Yes.
intentions, really. So I think that's okay. I'll have
Yeah.
to
I
accept
mean,
it.
everyone's got their own pace with
Everyone's
it. And
different.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this has been a really hard time for,
Yeah.
COVID wise to create. Like, I mean, and I create quite regularly, and then also do a lot of ghostwriting and session writing, that kind of stuff for other artists. And so even though during this time I've been writing a lot, I haven't really, I have like one song for myself, and I feel like, I don't know, it's just been such a different,
Yeah.
it's a unique, once in a lifetime experience, and you have to adjust. And I feel like, I don't know, my brain has to like consolidate everything that's happening and all the new feelings. And then I think stuff will come from that experience. But it's got to stew a bit longer, I think. And I'm trying not to, there's a pressure on us like all the time to be highly productive, but particularly during this time, it's like, everyone's like, oh, if you don't pick up a side hustle during, or just that pressure to make the most of the time. And actually, like, it's a bit of a struggle to completely change everything.
Yeah. Most of our time, I think, too, has been concerned about how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to sustain? We don't know how much longer the pandemic will affect our touring, which is historically our greatest, source of revenue, which is why, and segue to Patreon, I've been investing more time in trying to build that online community. And even before COVID, it was so important, to sustaining in the ever-changing and challenging, music industry and the way people that are consuming music. And so, I mean, it has been a good time for that I feel like people's attitudes towards monthly platforms that support creators like Patreon has changed for the better. I've gotten more support, and I think that's going to be the way moving forward, where people are more comfortable supporting artists regularly. And then there's definitely some silver linings to all of this, and as long as we're willing to, I guess, adapt and grow and learn some new skills, and a lot of it's all online. I mean, it'd be nice to just only write, but when you're DIY artist, even if you have management, and a team, it's oftentimes can be even more work, right? Because you have to stay in touch with more people, more cooks in the kitchen, and so it's a lot. It's a lot, but Patreon's given me great hope and motivation, and it's kind of kicked me into thinking up new, fresh ideas on how to engage with people online and to have fun with it. Again, like
it's great.
all the
You
things
really
I thought
inspired me with some of the activities that you're doing. Like, I'm so excited to
thanks.
think about it in that
You
way.
have too. Yeah, it's like all the things that I hated, thinking that I would have to do over time. Learn, if I can find a way to make it fun and be myself doing it, then I think it's worthwhile if it makes a connection. But ultimately, my goal is to write more and create more content and have more creative collaborations. So and you've made me think more about. I've said this from the beginning that I was terrible at co-writing. I've had a few co-writes, but it's not something I seek out to do, probably because of the nature of how I started songwriting and just loving that private space, but the more I listen to your music and other artists on our team, like, it really, as I'm listening, I'm like, of course we could collaborate on something, even if maybe it is songwriting, but maybe it's just like, oh, I'm hiring you to sing on my album, or trading vocals for projects and things like that. And we can do these things because we have the skills and the abilities. But now, like, moving forward, I think we have a long life to find some fun collaborations and exchanging information too, and ways we tour, and
I'm really happy to be connected in this way. It's really good. Thank you so much for answering my probing questions. And is
Oh,
there
my
anything
pleasure.
that you know you want to tell folks, like where they can find your music and obviously support you on Patreon?
Patreon, Bandcamp, ChristinaMartin.net. But you've done a fantastic job. Thank you so much. I love talking to you. And we did my interview and your interview. We've been talking for hours, and I could talk to you
We
for
can
many
keep going.
more, and I'm sure we will. But someone's coming to the house to buy our barn board, so I have to let you go,
All right.
unfortunately. But I'm so grateful for this opportunity to hang out and meet you and
Yeah,
hear you.
really enjoyed it. Thanks so much, Christina.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Bye.
Bye.